Jeanette, do you want me to share the screen?
I don't know if I can do that. Share screen.
Oh, I can share it since I have the presentation.
Okay,
All right.
there we go.
So at ESD 105, we've been involved in intercession programming for a while. We had the opportunity this last year to take some of the out-of-school experiences that we have and take those into intercessions and try them out in a 1-week intercession in one of our local districts. But I want to stop and take a minute on the second slide and let everybody introduce themselves. So Jeanette introduced me. I'm the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning at ESD 105. And I can't count the different roles I've had over the years in education. The color of my beard gives away that I'm not the youngest person in the room.
I am Darcy Jameson. I'm the Assistant Director of Teaching and Learning, recovering English teacher prior to coming here at the ESD. But happy to be here and really excited about what we have to share today.
My name is Kendra Quinta. I am the Program Manager for Teaching and Learning, and I primarily focus on out-of-school programming.
So if we want to come down to what we do. So as Kendra mentioned, she runs our out-of-school programming department. We've been testing materials for Intersessions after-school program and summer school from kinder to 5th grade. Since before the pandemic, we've run summer schools, we've run multiple 21st century programs over the years, and we've been able to run after-school programming in districts where we didn't have 21st century offerings. This last year, we came in and worked with Highland in what intercession would look like during the spring. We based our program on student, parent, teacher, principal, and district feedback, and are constantly refining the offerings that we have every time we finish a session. We've worked with high-level standards in districts where we see students struggling. An example from this last spring, if we thought about 4th grade, might be decomposing fractions and thinking about unit and non-unit fractions using an area model. Or in literacy, it might be looking at the main idea in text and thinking about supporting details and summarizing the text for students. Darcy, you want to come down to the next slide for us? Kendra, I'll turn it over to you.
You play the video first?
Oh, yeah.
That is the video.
You got it. So here's just an example of what we had this last spring out in Ireland. Darcy, I'm not hearing any sound.
I'm not either.
Our intercession package is intentionally designed to close academic gaps for students in a short period of time. Literacy lessons are focused on a single high-leverage standard, broken down in actionable and accessible chunks for students to experience success. The content from the literacy lessons is then infused into the math content and hands-on STEM activities. Math reinforces the content addressed in the literacy lessons by taking the concepts and putting them into concrete activities to increase numeracy and fluency. Finally, our STEM lessons take the concepts into real-world applications and engage students in hands-on learning.
We do pretty cool things that I don't think we would ever do. There's some teachers that bring things from home and they make for intercession, and it's really cool.
Intercession is fun. I would like to come back. It's pretty fun with all the electrics, reading, and the math.
With hands-on lessons integrating math, literacy, and STEM, we've been able to prove 25% growth for students over the course of a week. Our package includes professional development with asynchronous and in-person options available, all materials, and instructional support. We are pleased to bring this unique opportunity to districts to help close the gaps in student achievement in a way that increases engagement and excitement about learning.
Darcy's queuing that back up. Please feel free to come off mute at any time to ask questions as we go through this.
All right, so creating equity through intercession programming. So we really look at providing equitable opportunities for students and really looking at ways that we can close the educational gap. And while building their confidence in the skills and concepts that we know that they need help and support with. So through intercession, we look at creating safe environments where we're really supporting them to explore and engage in opportunities to develop their understanding of concepts, their talents, while also having fun while doing it. So the Wallace Foundation is a national foundation whose mission is to foster equity and improvement in learning and enrichment for young people. Here we have what they would consider their best practices. So this is conducted through a study they did for out-of-school learning and enrichment. As we look at these, we have the 6 best practices, and we want to just take a moment to have you guys review those and think about in your practice what are some areas of strength and what would you note as an area of challenge. And in the chat, if you can take a moment to identify just one area of strength, again, just kind of reflecting on your practice and planning for intercessions. And you can note that strength with an S and then which of the number of best practices. And then the same for a challenge. What do you find as a challenge when planning for your intercessions? So go ahead and take a moment just to review those best practices. And then in the chat, if you can just share a strength and a challenge. So a strength might be your recruitment process, whereas a challenge might be involving stakeholders in the planning process.
I put an example in.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. All right. Looks like a challenge is recruiting early. A strength is using data to determine the needs. Another strength is making instruction fun. Very good. That's very important, especially when we're talking about the intercession work. A challenge is recruiting early. So it looks like we've got some commonalities there with the recruitment process. So just kind of that forward thinking and just planning ahead. Another strength is making instruction fun. Right. Thank you, guys.
All right, so as we look at this slide, this is some of the elements that the Wallace Foundation says, these are the elements of program planning, things that we want to consider as we're going forward. So as a general rule of thumb, these are things that you want to consider. Those school and community partnerships. How do you get people to come in and be a partner and come alongside with what you're doing? That engaged learning, which looking at the strengths, making that learning fun is something that is your strength. So continuing on that, getting that family engagement. And one of the things that we are really excited to think about is how can we come alongside and help create that family engagement, those family partnership nights that go along with what's going in that intercession, and then extend that learning into the family unit. Intentional programming. So that intentionality of setting things up and not just activities, but that intentional standards-based, target-driven, here's where we're going to go. The diverse and prepared staff, preparation, participation, and access, really thinking about the safety and the health and the wellness of both the students and the staff and the community, as long as making sure that you know where you're starting and where you're ending, that ongoing assessment and improvement. So the things that we really focus on in our agency and in our partnership, our group, we really look at designing those programs with you based on the student and parent and teacher input. And we really want to think about, okay, what are the things that could be potential roadblocks? How do we work together? How do we look at standards or areas that might be areas for growth and improvement? And then we really think about how do we create that safe and structured and enriching expanded learning opportunities. Thinking about the fact that high quality instruction is not equitably, it's not equally accessible for all. Not everyone has that opportunity to have those high quality out of school programming experiences that have the hands-on, that have the STEM materials there for you, that engage all of that in an integrated learning experience. And then based upon that, we really think about those areas that are two big buckets that parents really want to think about, and that they have said, hey, this is something that we really want. We really try to infuse SEL activities that increase that sense of belonging and inclusiveness, and focusing on that hands-on STEM piece. But that STEM piece is totally integrated with the literacy and the math pieces, so that it's all one big piece. So it's not just chunk by chunk by chunk, but how do these all go together?
And for staffing for this, it was pretty bare bones. There was one student, one person.
I'm going to apologize. I think that we're getting a little bit of feedback from other people that are presenting at the same time in close proximity.
Yeah, Mike, I may pull up my other computer and then move locations here in just a moment.
So when we talk about learning loss, we've all experienced that over the last couple of years through the pandemic. We know that we saw gaps that increased throughout the pandemic, and we know that we are slowly seeing some of those gaps begin to trend in the right direction. One of the things that we've really been able to focus on in our program is whether it's an intercession of a week or whether it's after school programming, taking the time to ensure that we're narrowing the focus on standards so that we can really be intentional about closing that gap. And so some of the examples that we've shown as we go through here, we've been able to show up to an intercession a 25% gain in student comprehension in math and literacy. And Darcy, I want to change the slide because we can see that the slides are pretty similar in the learning loss we've experienced. Some of the things that we've been able to do is to think about how do we bring in the fine arts into intercessions as well. We saw pictures, and we've talked about STEM experiences that we bring in, but we've also been able to bring in the arts, and we think about drama as one of the opportunities that we brought in. I did not know until we started this work that there are 18 different versions of Cinderella out there written to meet different cultures. And so when we think about that, I've worked with some of the major publishers out there and thought about how do we bring in readers theater for kids. And so in one of the experiences that we put together for kids, we were able to bring in older students from the high school to help elementary students think about those parts and what that looked like. And I think the beauty of bringing that in the way we designed it is we think about that range of reading levels within a classroom. And the more proficient readers usually get the larger parts when we're thinking about some kind of dramatic experience. But through the materials we brought in, we can share those larger parts with all students so they have that opportunity to be involved. We can really think about how do we reinforce comprehension of vocabulary and think about the literacy skills and content knowledge as we work through that. You want to move forward to the math slide for me, please? One of the things that I think is important when we think about intercession is what are the strategies that we use to be able to support students? And so as we think about designing ours, we've really been intentional about thinking about the math games and activities that we can use. How do we create materials that can go home in multiple languages for families to be able to engage with their children? We're careful in the selection of those games and activities, so we're thinking about the appropriate mathematical concepts or skills we want students to work on. And I think the goals that we think about when we're working in those math activities or games is to really think about how do we develop confident mathematicians. If you ask my grandson or granddaughter, they would tell you they are mathematicians. How do we work on that confidence and how do we increase that mathematical ability? Because I think those just go so hand in hand for our kids. So we really think about how we provide those opportunities to practice the things that they've been working on in their classroom so we can build that procedural fluency, knowing that mathematical understanding will really increase in an engaging way. You want to move down to the next slide for us? I think we're going to give some example of one of the math activities that we had this spring.
All right, let me know if there's too much feedback here. So what I want you to do is go ahead and get a piece of paper out or a pencil. You can do it on your phone as a note. You can do it on a scratch piece of paper. You're going to draw the grid that you have there. So a 3 by 3, 1, 2, 3, with a box down below. Those are going to be our sums. I am going to roll an electronic dice. And each time that I roll the die, you're going to put the number of the die one place in that grid. The goal is we're going to do it 9 times. The goal is to get as close to 1,000 without going over. The goal is to get 999. What this does is it helps put the math into a fun, gamified way, but we're working on that math fluency. We're getting up, we're estimating, we're thinking about, okay, how can we work together to do this? So we're going to have a little bit of fun here. So here we go. This is what it's going to look like. And I'm going to go ahead and start. My link did not go.
And then in progress, they are developing toolkit.
Here we go. We're going to do 1 die there. So first one is a 4. Are you going to put it? Where are you going to put it in your grid? My second one.
What structure the district providing for students? So for
Is going to be a 1. Where are you going to put your 1?
School level, our school is engaging the student voice, and that's
Oh, we've got another 4. Where are you going to put your 4?
But we student voice that they want.
So right now, this is what mine looks like.
is
See,
our-
I've got some things, a grid here. I've got 4, 4, 1, trying to get as close to 999 without going over. Okay, here we go. All right, we've got a 5.
Mind and that's something we want to more like this policy. That's why we don't get full feedback on what it's doing.
Oh, and I just messed up. I just messed up. Okay, here we go. 3. Where are you gonna put your 3?
And so moving forward, where we're at now, we're thinking about how to replicate this and do it at the. school
1.
level.
Where are you going to put your 1?
School advisory council, and the same thing focused on the actual structure of the school and changing the structure of the school.
You've got a 2. Where are you gonna put your 2?
Groups that operate in tandem with those student groups and dealing with the parent group that is learning.
You've got another 1.
Functioning with the word.
And our last one. Mike, what are you hoping for?
Policy and system. We'd like to replicate this with parents.
I can't hear you.
And then we're connecting, we have student voice circles.
A 3, please.
Okay, here we go. Oh, look at that. Okay, so now you're gonna add your number up. 3, 4, 5.
But we want to connect that to our PLC word.
Okay. Drop your number in the chat. Ooh, we got 888. Okay, Kendra, you're 888. I was gonna say. We got 978. Mike, what'd you get?
Not even close.
Not even close.
Got us beat.
Okay, Michelle, I think you're the closest without going over. I messed up. But can you imagine the anxiety, not the anxiety, the excitement in the classroom when they're playing together, they're having this, and then they start thinking, oh no, I should have put the 4 here. I should have put the 1 there. And we've seen it happen. And the kids love these types of games. There are, I'm going to drop something in the chat here in a little bit that will have multiple examples, and it'll actually have the instructions for this game, plus a lesson plan that goes with it. So I'm going to drop that in the chat here in just a few minutes.
The students out, so they'll go.
All right, Kendra, I'm going to pass it over to you for literacy.
All right, thank you. So here we have a sample of a target and success criteria for a literacy lesson that we designed. When developing literacy lessons, we're really intentional about looking at both the high leverage standards and student data to identify the areas of greatest need. So really reflective of the students in front of us, while also thinking about those high leverage standards that we know will give us kind of that biggest bang in terms of planning for intercession and the time that we have with students. So from there, once we know our high leverage standards and what our student data is telling us, we look for the high interest texts to pair with our literacy lessons to create fun and engaging activities, also paired with learning resources such as anchor charts and graphic organizers that we create that help students practice these skills. Now, throughout these learning opportunities, similar to math and what Mike was sharing, is that our goal is to help students feel more confident and capable in their abilities while also increasing their understanding of literacy concepts.
All right, I mentioned my 2 grandkids. So think about this. They come in one night and I'm sitting at the dining room table and I've got a bunch of bananas that I stopped and picked up on the way home. And I've got those bananas sitting in front of me like the keys to a piano. And they walk by, hi Papa, how are you? And then they hear the sound of a piano playing. And they stop and look over at me and I'm playing the bananas. Instantly, they're hooked into that. And it was the same in class as we tried that on. So we think about at grade levels, what's an appropriate STEM activity that we can use that will help us reinforce the literacy and the math work that we're working on in classes. So this spring, when we were trying things out, we looked at kinder at using Kiva planks. We use Legos if we're thinking about first grade. And we've had all kinds of activities, buildings around the world, trying out different design shapes with first graders. It is amazing what they turn out. At second grade, we tried something new this spring. We tried using indie robot Sparrows. And if you look at the slide and you see those colored tiles on the ground, you're going to take a little car that's about a 2-inch by 3-inch shape. And you're going to work on programming that little car to go from the various colored tiles, tile to tile. You have to program what you want it to do. Do you want it to turn 90 degrees? Do you want it to go forward? Would you like it to go forward faster? So we had teachers that had never done any coding before get to try this on in PD. We were fortunate in PD that we had access to bring kids in and work with it, the teachers. I don't know when I've seen students and teachers down on the floor working together in PD and trying to draw them back in to talk about the work we were doing and the next step was near impossible. They were having so much fun playing with that. And it was the same in classrooms as we tried those little cars and had them programming. They programmed in songs, they programmed in different coding patterns. We thought about third grade, we've tried on Ozobots in the classroom. In fourth grade, I've already mentioned the Makey Makeys that we tried on. In a week using the Makey Makeys in class, we started out teaching them how to hook things up, and you saw in the video all the various wires kids were working with. And yeah, it became a tangled mess at times that we had to work through together. But then they got to experience using different instruments, and each child had the choice of what instrument they wanted to bring together. And then we tried something dramatic. Let's take a whole classroom of fourth graders and let's have them talk about band and orchestra. And for a lot of the kids, that was a new experience to think about that. They hadn't had that opportunity to really think about what an orchestra might be like. And each kid got to pick their instrument, and we formed that orchestra, and then different kids got to come up front and take turns being the conductor. And we tried on different songs. So they got to lead different songs with all those different instruments playing. Everything from the bongo drums to the electric guitar. It was an amazing experience for kids. At fifth grade, we tried something new using Wonderbots. And I think the important part of the STEM activity is how we tied the math and the literacy back in to the STEM activities we're doing. So it's a chance to reinforce those targets that they're talking about in their other classrooms and those concepts, whether we're talking about working with fractions, or we were talking about electricity through thunder and lightning storms. It just all tied back together. Darcy, you want to talk a little bit about the connections we build in for social emotional learning?
Absolutely. So I do want to go back to this right now for just a second, because this is a perfect example of what and how we embed the SEL standards in the curriculum across the way. Because you're looking at these kids and they are not succeeding on the first try. They are seeing that, oh, I can make a mistake. Oh, I can try again and again and again, and developing that habit of mind of perseverance and resilience. And you see it right here. And to be able to watch kids try things over and over and over again and not lose their excitement and joy was so invigorating. I just loved it. It was so exciting to see that. So these are a couple of pictures that really show that. But a couple of other examples of how we embed the SEL connections. We really think about developing the whole child. So thinking about those meaningful activities, thinking about developing that mental math, our mathematical minds that come from Joe Bowler's work, and thinking about what are all the things that we really want to train our brains to think about when we're thinking about math. So that SEL and those habits of mind embedded in math. We also talk about self-regulation. We do activities. An example is we have some moments during the day where we take some time to really think about, okay, we're going to do some what we call activities from Breathe Like a Bear, which are really those mindfulness activities. Are we getting super excited? Are we getting are we too tense? Are we thinking about all these different things and then embedding those throughout the day? And we really try to think about
And one other thing on.
growing the students as a whole child, helping them see things from other people's perspectives, and then also self-regulating and thinking about how can they continue to grow and be the best kids that they can be.
So I would just finish up where we started. We really thinking about what that targeted instruction looks like at grade levels, tailored to students' needs in math and reading, tying those STEM activities in to support it, and those fine arts. Thinking about how do we come back to those bullet points listed there, safe, structured, enriching the opportunities, high quality programming, and how do we create that sense of belonging and inclusiveness for all kids? We know that the most potent strategies out there are developing small groups with interventions for our kids during intercessions and not waiting for the summer to try and close those gaps. We know the research is compelling and this is the right work, and we know how we can close those gaps. We want to be able to support people as they try this work on. So I think what's really important right now is just taking our mute off on our mics and just talking about your experiences and what you want to know.
How many students do you usually have in one of your intercession classrooms or your student to teacher ratio?
Well, if you looked at the videos up above, the
Mhm.
classes average somewhere between 20 and 25 kids at the
Oh,
fourth grade level. And then as we came down through the grades, it went down. I think kinder first might have been as low as 17, 18. And it varies. I mean, it really varies during the week. Unfortunately, we don't want to see the kids come for the full week. I think examples where kids are really highly engaged, though. We saw kids that were just waiting to get there. Passing by some of those bus stops and seeing those kids every morning, it didn't take them long to recognize me going by. Oh, that's the guy in the beard that I'm going to see later today.
thank you.
What else is on people's mind?
So my biggest struggle with intercession planning, this is our second year running intercession balanced calendar, is getting enough staff to support the amount of students that we have register. And how do you get staff to teach intercession?
You know, Michelle, I can't really talk to that specifically because when we go out, we put together materials and training for staff, and the district's done that job of bringing staff in to work at it. I know that it's been a struggle in places that I've worked with districts on. I know in this last example that we showed, you saw me in the classroom. Partway through the week, we had 2 teachers that went out with COVID. Okay, we're going to jump in and help take care of it. It's a struggle for all of us.
Yeah, I've definitely taught academics, academic enrichment. I go on the field trips, and yeah.
We've all been there.
And it's my busiest weeks of the year.
One of the things that we did do to help entice teachers is when we did the professional development, we did offer STEM clock hours that went through that because it was integrating the math and the science and the literacy. So they were able to get some STEM clock hours, which I know come May, that is a really big ask here at the ESD is how can we get more of those hours? So that is something that we did do intentionally to entice people to want to be able to teach those lessons.
I think that's been a consistent draw in any type of out of school programming that we offer. What else is top of people's mind? Darcy's putting a couple resources so you can see the first one is a literacy lesson. And again, we looked at electricity and that snap, crackle, and flow. So we could tie it in to the electrical work we were doing inside of the Makey at 4th grade. She's included sample math lessons, technology lessons, don't break the bank, fill the stairs, just different examples of lessons and activities that we've tried on.
each of those are a link to those resources. So please do not hesitate to reach out for any questions or any follow-up on any of those. We have a lot of fun putting this together and seeing kids being really engaged.
Do you do a field trip on your intercession weeks?
We have not.
Okay, and that's something that I've done every intercession week. I do a field trip, and maybe that's why we get a lot of kids that want to go, but they have to attend, the days to be able to do
Sure.
the field trip. But I know that now that we don't have balanced calendar funding, we might have to take out those field trips.
And I think one of the things that counteracts that could possibly be bringing in more of those community partners and bringing those community partners to you rather than you going to the community partners. I love field trips. I think that's absolutely a wonderful experience. But if there's not the funding, sometimes those community partners are willing to come in to you and do some different things.
An example of that would be just in summer school. Yesterday, I got a call that the GM of the local baseball team was here and wanted to talk. And we've already worked out a deal to be able to have an education day with our local summer league team here in Yakima. Last year, we took 2,000 kids to a summer baseball game. I think it's just, you have to go out and strike those partnerships up, right? And what's a rich opportunity when you take kids to an education night at a game, and we were able to leverage another grant source and be able to pass out books. And so it's always, we all know it's being creative with that funding.
Another example is the high school that we were working with this fall, that they were running into that same issue of not having the balanced calendar funding. And so we sat with them and brainstormed, okay, how can we help support with different resources within our ESD or partnerships that we can help call upon to come out to the district to help present or help make it worthwhile, because they were running into the same types of things. So it really was depending on those out of school partnerships that really helped pull that off.
We use our local library, cookie decorators, different things like that. Some people want to be paid, some people don't. And so we definitely like doing those community partners with, that they can walk around the community and see businesses and get involved that way. That's good.
Absolutely. What else is top of mind? I know we're about out of time.
Are any of your resources available to other districts?
Yeah, we're always willing to share and talk about things that we put together. We're all in this together. I don't know an educator out there that doesn't take advantage of other resources that people put together.
All right. So if districts were interested, we could get a hold of you and say, hey, give us some ideas or share some of your materials.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
That's why Darcy just put some examples in so people can see the kind of work we put together.
Great. Anybody else have any questions? Well, we should just about be out of time. I'm waiting for them to call us back, but thank you very much. And we appreciate that. Your sharing, and I'm sure we'll be getting a hold of you guys to get some ideas and information from you in the future.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thanks everybody for listening. I don't know if there's anything different than everybody else. Sometimes we just have a little bit more time available to be able to put things together.
Thank you. All righty. Let's see. So now, thank you, Diane. We appreciate you joining in on the session. And I hope if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat or send me an email. I can get you in touch with people. Thank
you.
We're ready to head back to the main room, Jeanette? What do you want to do?
I think so. I'm just waiting. I don't have